Well, I was at Georgia Tech on a basketball scholarship and taking chemical engineering, and I wanted to go work for an oil or a chemical company. And I interviewed Phillips all 4 years of my time at Tech. But the ironic part about it is that my first trip to Bartlesville was paid for by city service. At the time I was being interviewed, Phillips wasn't paying for recruitment trips, but city service was. So I eventually ended up talking to them and decided that I'd go to work for Phillips prior to going to the Army, and what could I lose? I was traveling 3 weeks out of the month. I was going to Europe at least once a month for about 3 years. Didn't take long before an opportunity came up when they wanted to put someone in Zurich, Switzerland, and then was transferred to Paris, and then another job opened back in New York, which is where I met my wife to be. Pete called me on the phone and said, let's meet in front of Trinity Church, which was just down the street from where I was working and right across the street from where he was working. You know, both of us were on Wall Street. And so we met in front of Trinity Church and went out for a drink. And then we went to the ball a couple of nights later. And then we started dating. I recall telling Theo when we first got married that one of these days we may have to live in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. She seems to have forgotten I ever said that. I had been to Bartlesville once, I think, before we moved here to live, maybe twice. But I can remember even when we first moved here that I was impressed with the number of things that there were available to do here. And then, of course, once we got OK Mozart and the museum going, there are lots more things to do.
I admire her steadiness and her continued interest. A lot of people will have a flush of interest in a project for a while and then they trail off. Theo just keeps on keeping on and provides us with that treasure of information, knowledge. She's got a pretty darn shrewd business mind too. She will ask you the questions that need to be asked.
Well, Theo is interested in everything, and she has a great sense of humor, but she's a person that doesn't take herself real seriously, likes people, and is a very sociable and social person. Very easy to be around.
There was a time when people from outside the city were looking at it with the idea of stripping the building of all the Frank Lloyd Wright things, and we would have been left with a hulk. And we just thought that we couldn't let that happen.
And what's remarkable when I think about Pete and Theo's influence with Price Tower, certainly they saved what could have been a scrap of copper. And it's wonderful for Bartlesville to have this iconic treasure. But what I don't think anybody realized in the vision that they had and the end result being a World Heritage Site by the year 2015 for the world to see, I think is remarkable. So it goes beyond and transcends just them saving a building for Bartlesville. They actually saved a treasure for the world.
I thank my lucky stars every time I walk in the door at the Price Tower or OK Mozart or even the Scout office that they stayed and provided the leadership, the financial wherewithal, and the intellectual capital to keep these institutions going at a time when a lot of other people were bailing out.
I've been involved with other museums, other cultural organizations, and other nonprofits of welfare and health, and I have never seen a couple that are so committed, and I'm not talking about their philanthropy, but the heart and soul. And when I talk to Pete, when I see Pete talk to others, I can see that driven influence that he has, and it's very contagious.
To make the decision to stay in Bartlesville and give back to the community, I think that's what makes them a family worthy of consideration for this honor.
You know, I cannot imagine a Bartlesville without Pete and Theo, and it's amazing working at Price Tower. That obviously was my first focal point. I came here to be part of the Price Tower family, but when you look outside and see the landscape, to see the skyline of Bartlesville, they have had influence on its very footprint. When you take a look at other buildings, other nonprofits, other festivals and other occasions that we have in our community, believe it or not, Pete and Theo behind the scenes have been instrumental in providing that sense of enthusiasm and that sense of community pride.
And so it's more of a commitment not only to better the area in which you live, but also to better the climate in which you raise your children, because they're the future.
Well, I think it's been a great opportunity that we've had to contribute something to town. I think Bartlesville has given us as much as we've given Bartlesville. And it would be the same for anybody who volunteered